So, we are going to do the brain IAC's protocol. First sequence is, as always, the localizer. Okay, this first scan's about 30 seconds long. Please hold still. And I got a break. As per usual, calibration scans next. Just going to, well, let's move this up and out of the way for starters. And then I'm just going to click right in the middle of the window. Perfect. Save it. Alright, this next scan's also about 30 seconds long. Hold very still. No break this time. Sagittal T1. I'm going to do my setup. Right click in this window, see if I can find a better one. I've got a really nice one here. And I'm in a window level. I've got a nice Fox right here. And pretty decent Fox right there. And throw down in the coronal plane, just like that. Angle's already built in, it looks like, really nice. Okay, so I'm going to angle in all three planes. There. This is already mostly done for me. Don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to center. Again, just putting the crosshair right in the middle of the brain, just like that. Looks really good. Now I do coverage. Well, looks like that's pretty much done for me too, from the edge of the brain to the edge of the brain. Perfect. Do my numbers. I'm already satisfied that this is a minute long, so I'm just going to go down to 256. 192. I'm going to keep it at 52 seconds since we're going to use this to plot later, so I'm going to want to have it an image that isn't too grainy. So, all right, this next scan's about a minute long. Hold very still. Oh, I need to check that I'm going from left to right. I neglected to do that.
Is the TR too high or no?
Oh, good. Yeah, you caught me. Jesus. What am I doing? All right, my TR's wrong. I feel like starting over. There we go. Fix that. All right, axial T2. Again, I'm going to do the setup. And I'm going to throw down in the sagittal plane like that. And now I get to angle in all three planes. Make sure that I'm going the correct way, which I am. Make sure that angle is just about like that. Angled. So I've angled in all three planes. Now I'm going to center. Just basically center right in the middle of the axial like that. I'm going to do coverage. Go from the top of the brain there. Base of the skull is right here, so it looks about right. 256, 192. I'm going to go to 1 next. And pick a decent TR. Done. Okay, this next scan is also about a minute long. Coronal T2. Same thing as before. Throw down in the sagittal. Make sure that my slices are going the correct way, which they are. And then I just angle again with the back of the brain stem right there like that. And then go ahead and angle in all three planes again. pretty good. Let me do my centering, so just like that. Again, this line I like to put right at the base of the corpus callosum, right there, like that. And then we do coverage. The coverage looks pretty good. From front anterior brain, posterior brain, pretty straightforward like that. 256, 192, go to 1 next, and do the TR again. Actually, I'm going to go back to 2 next, so that's for sure. Again, we're going to use this to plot our things. Okay, so that's pretty much what you've always done before. Okay, this next scan is about 1 minute and 15 seconds. Hold very still. Alright, so this is an axial thin. So the first thing I'm going to do is load the sagittal that I've already acquired. I'm not that concerned about loading an axial because that's the plane we're scanning in, but I do want to be able to see a high resolution sagittal. So I'm just going to throw down on this sagittal. I guess I could get fancy, take that off, window this nicely, window this nicely, and throw down right there. Alright, so it's coming up in the wrong plane. This is a coronal slice this way, and I want an axial. So what I do is, because I have an axial and I want a coronal, I go into the sagittal plane and I rotate it 90 degrees. I also want it to go from inferior to superior, so it's best to rotate it counterclockwise. Alright, so I'm going to match the angle with the back of the brainstem, just like we've always done. So the angle is exactly the same as you've always done for brains in the past. And now I'm going to try to angle this. I'm going to revisit this here in a second. And we go to make sure that this is rotated properly. And here, 256, 192, 2 next, do my TR, and now we wait. The reason I'm waiting is I want a really nice coronal. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to load the coronal I just did. And this anatomy here is the key anatomy. These are the IACs. They're pretty easy to spot on a T2 because they're fluid-filled structures within a sea of bone. So they show up really nicely. They don't show up on a T1 all that well. You know, you can still see them, but it's much easier to see them on a T2. So what I'm going to do is I can bring the edge of the slices down, and I want to match the angle of these exactly. Something like right about that. So that it's going through the IACs symmetrically. That. And then I slide it up so that the IACs are right in the middle. That's about it. Centering pretty much right in the middle of the, just like about that. Again, so I'm trying to get the posterior of the brain and as much of the anterior as I possibly can. The IACs are pretty much right in the middle of the skull, so you should have no trouble getting them on the scan, but it's nice to have the posterior of the brain on there and then as much of the anterior as you can. Alright, so that's that. So we saved that. I already did my TR. So, alright, this next scan is also about 1 minute and 20 seconds. Just hold very still. Now, the Fiesta is an interesting scan. It's a T2 weighted sequence, inversion recovery sequence. So, now, you can try to copy this, the prior one, but you see nothing's there because it's got a filter here that says 3D. So if you go to all, you should be able to pull up this axial T1, but it's not going to give you the option to copy the slice thickness or any of that. But you can copy the predominant like the actual angulation and the centering from the prior. But if you first come up on the screen and you don't see anything, the secret is you have to go to all here. And then you select it, click accept, and boom. It just puts the slices in exactly the same location. Notice how this is a volume acquisition instead of the slices that we did on the last scan. That's all there is to that. And we're going to leave this alone. This 288 by 288, those are isotropic voxels, meaning that they're the same or pixels, they're the same in both directions, so we're going to leave that alone. I am going to drop the next down to 1 just to save time. Alright, so you don't have to worry about the TR for this one, since it has a flip angle that handles the contrast. All that is set up for you, so there's really nothing else to do. I'm going to save that. Alright, this next scan's about 1.5 minutes. Please hold still. Ooh, look at this, just the beautiful optic nerve we got right there. Look at that. That's gorgeous. Right? Everybody like that? That's nice, huh? Alright, so you notice how on a T1 you don't really see the IACs as well as you do on a T2. You can see them here, and these are nice and symmetrical. You can see the IAC right here and right there. And then you have the semi-lunar canals over here and over there. So that's perfect. Let's go on to our last sequence. It's a coronal. So I'm going to load the sagittal that we did in here. And I can go ahead and load this axial T1 because I can see them, but I don't have to. So I'm going to go ahead and throw down. For a coronal, I'm going to throw down in the sagittal plane. You can throw down in the axial if you'd like, but I'm just used to throwing down in the coronal, in the sagittal plane. We checked our direction, and this is correct. We're going from anterior to posterior, so that looks good. And then I'm just going to kind of throw this over top of here. And again, we're just going to angle with the back of the brainstem, just like we always have. And come into this. And center up there. I just want to make sure I center in the middle of the brain. One of the things I'm going to do now is, even though I've loaded the T1 in there, I'm going to load this Fiesta in here. The reason being is the Fiesta is a T2, heavily T2 weighted sequence, so you have a much easier chance to time seeing the IACs. And you just want to, the IACs are on 2 different angles here, but I just want to see if I can kind of match the kind of where they start here and there, and just try to tweak that angle just a little bit till I'm happy. They're never symmetrical, I've heard them referred to as Shrek ears or whatever. They're always different, go with slightly different angles, different directions. You just want to match them as best you can. It's kind of there's no art to it. It's just kind of angle until you think that they're symmetrical side to side like that. Okay? I'm going to re-angle this. So just a little bit like that. And that looks good. So I've got the IACs covered. And again, my slices are going from anterior to posterior. So 256, 192, let's see the one next. And, all right, so for one acquisition, I have a TR that's too low for a T2, so this is another type in. So I want you to put in 2500. That's the lowest TR that you're allowed. Now you're not completely optimized. You've got 15. You've got basically 16 seats for 15 riders on the bus, but you can't do anything about it without adjusting echo train length or doing something else, which we're not going to do. You save that. It's okay. All right, our next scan is about 1 minute, and you'll be all done. So, the Fiesta is actually fairly interesting in the fact that you have artifact at the top slices, the first slices, and the slices at the end, which is interesting because it's essentially the anatomy from the other side wrapping around. I'm not even sure why it happens, but I know it happens, so I know that you have to add an extra couple of slices or a few slices on the top or the bottom, because you get this kind of weird artifact happening. But it's a really cool scan. See how the IACs show up really nicely? You can see the semi-lunar canals really well. You can even, if you window it right, let's window it flatter, 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 flatter. You can even see like the nerve roots. Can you see the little nerves coming in there? Pretty cool, huh? I think it's neat. So it's very diagnostic. If somebody had a mass in here, you'd be able to see it really, really well. All right. And for the last sequence to show up.